Oculus 2013. Synopsis. Oculus is a horror film with a non-linear narrative. The cast of Oculus includes the Queen of Redheads, the gorgeous Karen Gillan. The film's strength is its fantastic non-linear narrative. However, it's much easier to tell the plot in chronological order. After being accused of involvement in his parents' murder, Tim Russell is released from the mental institution where he's been held for 11 years. Now, his sister is determined to prove Tim's innocence. So she takes him against his will to the very house where it all happened, just to prove his parents' innocence. Plot. The present. 11 years pass. Tim completes his treatment. The film opens with a dream sequence in which young Tim and Kaylie are held at gunpoint, and the shooter is Tim. We aren't shown what the treatment was like, but this seems to be a pivotal moment in Tim's release from custody. Tim believes, or wants to believe, that what he saw as a child was simply his young brain creating an elaborate ghost story to cope with the events of his parents' murders. Kaylie is left alone in the foster home. She ages out there and has now been transferred her home. She lives with her fiancé in another house. In the time that has passed, she has been researching the mirror to discover strange and gruesome things that have happened to the mirror's owners. She locates the mirror through the auction company where she works and takes it to the old house. There's a brief moment where the mirror plays a trick on Kaylie at the auction house, with the demon disappearing dressed in a blanket. When Tim leaves, he is greeted by Kaylie. She reminds him of his promise to kill the mirror. 11 years ago. A family moves into a new house. Alan, the father. Maria, the mother. Kaylie, the oldest daughter. Tim, the youngest son. They buy new furniture. Among them is this mirror. This mirror is evil. And like evil objects, this mirror takes time to expand its field of control and domination. The mirror uses illusions to trap its victims. Marisol, the evil in the mirror, seduces Alan. This mind is slowly corrupted by the mirror, as it is in the office lounge where he spends most of his time. Both Kaylie and Tim see this woman in the office on multiple occasions. Now, they both assume she is a human woman. Marie has never seen her, although she overhears Alan talking to someone when he is in his office. Marie begins to suspect that Alan is having an affair. Alan begins to distance himself more. Marisol speaks to him quite frequently now, and his mind is firmly possessed. One day, Marie sees that Alan has bought a gun, ostensibly for protection. She asks him to lock it up, and he agrees. When Marie leaves the room, the mirror calls her a grotesque cow in Alan's voice. Marie is deeply hurt by this. She looks in the mirror and is presented with a distorted image of herself. After hearing from her two children about the woman in the office, Marie goes to the office to see a sheet of paper filled with Marisol. Unaware of the evil in the mirror, she concludes that Alan is having an affair. In her anger, she throws something in the direction of the mirror, hitting only the wall next to it. Immediately after this, Marie is possessed. Tim and Kaylie come to check on her, and she chokes Tim. The two children split up and run upstairs and lock themselves in their room. At that moment, Alan appears. He quickly subdues Marie and knocks her unconscious. For a brief moment, Alan comes to his senses and tries to call for help. But the mirror intercepts and tells Alan to chain and lock Marie up like an animal. Alan tells the children that their mother is sick and they should stay away from her. He ends up saying, "we," instead of "I." Kaylie notices, but Alan doesn't care to clarify who "we" is. Later, we are shown Alan taking some really ugly food for Marie. He is torturing her and making her eat dishes. Marie loses her teeth as a result. Through the events of this film, we discover that the mirror feeds on dogs, plants, and human minds for its energy. The family dog begins to get sick. One day, Marie locks the dog in the office, and when Alan returns that night, the dog is gone. Presumably, the mirror consumed it. Alan hasn't been paying any bills or buying groceries. The TV goes out, and there's no more food. Kaylie tries to tell Alan to buy groceries and find a doctor for his mother. He doesn't seem to care. Kaylie decides to talk to her mother only to realize she's now a wild creature chained to the wall. Alan becomes enraged at the children and grounds them. The children try to call various doctors, but they constantly hear the same voice telling them to tell their father to make the call. The two realize something extremely strange is going on. Kaylie tries to ask a neighbor for help, but Alan talks to her casually. Kaylie tells Tim it's time to be truly brave. She means breaking his path might be the only option. The house finally loses power. Tim tries to get his dad to fix it and is greeted by Marisol. Tim freaks out and runs upstairs. Later, Tim peeks into the room to see his father looking in the mirror, then pulls out the gun and loads it. The children decide the mirror is the root of all evil and they need to break it. But they confront Marisol and run back to their rooms. Alan goes up to Marie's room and frees her. She bangs on the children's door. Kaylie signals Tim to run upstairs, and she comes out and hits Marie with a golf club. Tim runs downstairs, and Kaylie jumps out the window into the garden. Inside, Alan goes after Tim and fires a shot. Kaylie hears this and goes inside. She finds Alan hiding, as he signals to leave. Marie attacks Kaylie and begins to strangle her. For a brief moment, Marie has come to her senses, but Alan shoots and kills her. The children run and try to break the mirror, but instead hit the wall. They realize the mirror won't let them. Alan enters the room and points the gun at Kaylie. He begins to say what the mirror tells him. Tim knocks the gun out of Alan's hands. Alan tries to strangle Kaylie. Tim takes the gun and brings it closer to Alan. He stops strangling Kaylie, turns around, gets on his knees, and puts his hands on the trigger. Alan comes to his senses, as does Marie, for a moment, tells Alan to run, and pulls the trigger. The police appear and declare that this was a case of domestic violence in which a husband brutally killed his wife, and his son retaliated by killing him. Tim is admitted to a psychiatric institution, and Kaylie is taken to a foster home. Kaylie yells at Tim, asking him to remember to keep his promise to kill the mirror. As he walks away, in the window, he sees both of his dead parents staring back at him. Kaylie in the present. That night, Kaylie has a nightmare in which her father suffocates her, and she wakes up screaming. The next day, she has Tim go to the old house where the mirror is, and Kaylie has installed cameras, screens, plants, food, water, and a trigger mechanism connected to a 20-pound Danforth anchor. Kaylie believes she needs to ensure that, should they die, the trigger mechanism will cause the mirror to shatter. She has also asked her fiancé to call her on the hour to check on her. If she doesn't get an answer, she should call the police. She begins recording and goes through a list of people who have owned the mirror and their fates. Tim doesn't believe her because he truly feels his experiences were just his imagination. They argue about his dog and how it died. Tim says his father was a homicidal maniac who killed his mother and was having an affair. Kaylie disagrees because her mother had lost her mind when she died. Tim frees Kaylie's euthanized dog. It begins again. For the rest of the film, the mirror essentially messes with the minds of the two, making them run around like children and annihilating them. Kaylie first sees that the cameras have been placed in a face-to-face position. When they play back the recorded footage, they see the two moving the cameras, but they don't remember doing so. This would have been an ideal moment to abandon the plan and run away, but they don't. They don't know it yet, but they're already screwed. Tim leaves the house to make a call, but he can't get a network. Suddenly, he's back in the house. Just imagine going outside. They put the cameras back in place. Tim sees an image on the screen that's completely different from what's happening. This scene is enough to say that you can't believe electronics if your mind is being manipulated. Kaylie receives a call from her fiancé to check on her. There seems to be no way to tell it's him. The plants begin to rot, too. Slowly, the lights begin to dim. Tim begins to see flashes of the past. While Kaylie is fixing light bulbs, he picks up an apple and bites into it, only to think he's bitten into a light bulb and it's bleeding. Soon she responds and sees that it is, in fact, the apple. Their minds begin to wander. Flashbacks. Both begin to see the past unfold before them. The event of their mom going crazy, the doctor calling, etc. Tim is upstairs, and Kaylie is standing in front of the mirror, daydreaming. Just before the timer goes off, she steps back and resets it. She begins to get frustrated and breaks a vase with a dead plant in it. Tim sees his younger self coming down to ask his dad to fix the electrical problem and sees Marisol. The house loses power, and Kaylie starts turning on the battery-operated lamps. Upstairs, she sees a chain and broken plates and tells herself it's not real. When she goes back downstairs, she sees more pieces of a broken plate. When she looks through her phone, the floor is clear. Suddenly, Marie appears dead, and Kaylie stabs her with a piece of the plate she's holding. She soon sees that it's his fiancée she's stabbed. The piece in her hand isn't from a plate, but from the vase. Now there's a 50-50 chance that the fiancé is actually in the house and dead. It could be that she tried to contact Kaylie, couldn't get through, and showed up at the house. But it would be wise to assume that everything happening in the house is a mirage. The mirror is projecting visions into their minds to make them do things. 911 call. The two run outside, and Tim calls 911. A point to note here is that this call goes through, the police appear, at the end, saying Tim made the call. The mirror has already planned their destinies, it's just executing them. Tim now says they just have to wait until the journey ends and the mirror breaks. It's not that simple. The lights come back on, and they see their doubles inside the room, standing in front of the mirror. The two are now confused whether what they are seeing from outside is an illusion or if being outside is the illusion. Tim makes another 911 call. He hears the old voice telling his father to call the doctor. Kaylie stomps on the phone. The two are convinced the call never went through and return to the house. They see their doubles in the mirror, with Marisol walking toward them, speaking in her father's voice. Reliving the nightmare. Kaylie sees that Tim is now a child again and runs away scared. She remembers running with him in the past through similar events. They are back in the room and chased by his creepy mother. Tim realizes this is just a repeat of previous events. He goes outside and sees his father with a gun and shoots him. Kaylie, as in the past, is now outside and runs inside when she hears the gun. She sees her fiancé dead in the mirror. She sees Tim hiding as before and replays the events of his mother suffocating her and his father shooting his mother again. Tim sees the events of him finally shooting his father. He imagines being chased by demons. This isn't a memory, it's an illusion currently being projected to instill enough fear in him. Tim wakes up sitting alone in front of the mirror in the present, scared. Kaylie died. Tim thinks he's alone in the room. He can't see Kaylie. She's in the room too. The illusion projected in his head is of his younger self looking in the mirror to see her mother calling her name. Young Kaylie walks up to the mirror and hugs her mother. In reality, present-day Kaylie is standing in front of the mirror, hugging him. Tim isn't seeing this. In his fear, he sees an opportunity to destroy the mirror. He runs to the timer and resets it. The anchor falls and strikes Kaylie in the back of the head. She dies. Tim sees Kaylie only after the anchor hits her. The end. The police arrive and see the footage. Tim remembers all the events as they happened 11 years ago. It's happening again. This time Kaylie is dead. They shouldn't have messed with that mirror. Tim is arrested because the police only see Tim killing Kaylie on the footage. As Tim walks away, he remembers the promise he made to his sister that he hasn't been able to keep. In the window, this time, he sees his dead parents and now also Kaylie staring back at him as the film ends. Comments. According to the specialized site Metacritic, Oculus earned a 61 out of a possible 100 based on 28 commercial reviews, meaning generally positive reviews. On the website Rotten Tomatoes, the film maintains a 73% approval rating based on 139 professional reviews. On the other hand, more than 90,000 users of the Internet Movie Database have given the film an average rating of 6.5 out of a possible 10. My final comment is about Kaylie's actions. Her brother bore the consequences of shooting their father, an act that saved both of their lives. But the first thing her sister did after her brother spent years locked away in recovery was take him back to the house where all his misfortune occurred. He stated that he didn't want to return, that he preferred to leave it in the past and that he was content to think of his father as mentally ill, but his sister reminded him of a promise she herself had forced, because she had to free their father's good name. But what about her brother's decision? She should have respected that. After all, it was all a promise as children. So, in my opinion, aside from a lack of respect for her brother's decision, while she had a normal life and managed to become a good professional, with a fiancé in her life, experiencing love, her brother spent his time locked up with doctors and more medications, living the torment of having shot his father, when we all saw that it was forced and not by his own decision. Now she wants to return to that house where not only their reputations are in danger, but also their lives. So, who was the mentally unstable one? That's all from me, goodbye.